Good morning, Charles. How are you?
Good morning, Dan. I am well. How are you?
I am excellent, knowing that this video situation has been resolved.
Or so it seems.
We'll
see how see how well it actually works when we review the recorded file after we're all done.
I'm excited for it.
I am more excited than I've been so far. So there's that.
And look at this beautiful studio we have here in my house. Yes, that you built mostly.
Well, so far it just looks like some black curtains and a desk.
But it's beautiful.
What we're going for. That's fine. Yeah. I am imposing my minimalism on your house.
I need a little bit more minimalism in my life.
Many of us do. All right, so yeah, we're gonna try this and see how it goes. This will be our first potentially released video episode. What's new with you? How's it going?
Things are well. Yeah, I basically just been working on my RV and then preparing for these hurricanes, buying all the stuff that I think I need that I don't need. So we'll need it in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, you bought a generator as well, right?
I did.
We're both generator owners.
I just need to plug it in, figure out how it works, and make sure that I'm not scrambling last minute so that all my frozen meat in my refrigerators or my freezers in the garage starts going bad.
Yeah.
That's my biggest concern.
Yeah, it's one of those purchases where you kind of hope you don't ever need to use it. Right. But yeah, just motivating myself to get mine off the shelf and plug it in and try it out, hook it up. There's a lot I need to do before an actual post-storm situation where I want power. There's a lot of prep I need to do to be ready for that, and I have done none of it so far. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. The refrigerator saga continues at my house. You and I had a nice little day of running around from store to store trying to find a refrigerator between 27 inches and 32 inches tall, which does not exist.
As I was made aware of, correct. But before that, we had a little bit more of an interesting...
I forgot the adventure before that.
It really wasn't even an adventure. I mean, so...
Let me tell everybody what happened. So basically, I found out after I started removing my old refrigerator that RV refrigerators are installed before the RV is finished being assembled. And the reason for that is the refrigerator is bigger than any hole that exists in the RV. It's bigger than any window and it's bigger than any door. And so there is no way without disassembling the refrigerator in a way that I don't have the skill to do. Like there's all these coils that hold all the freon and the chemicals behind the refrigerator, that there are people in the world who know how to take all that off the refrigerator, and I am not one of them.
So you cut a hole in the door, and so then what happened next?
I would have to cut a hole around the door frame bigger than the door frame.
Yeah, that's insane.
So instead of that, I rented a reciprocating saw or sawzall.
Well, let's back up a little minute. Before you actually settled on the reciprocating saw,
right. First
you had a different idea.
Yeah. First I Googled, can you chainsaw a refrigerator? Because my first thought was, I'm going to get a chainsaw and I'm going to cut this refrigerator in half.
I've got a hockey mask you can borrow,
which may have been a little bit faster, although it didn't take too long to go through it with the reciprocating saw.
Yeah.
Once I started cutting, that went pretty well. So yeah, the solution was I took my old poorly functioning, not completely non-functional, but poorly functioning refrigerator, and I just sawed it in half and then put each half outside the door. And now it's sitting on the patio out front of my camper where either today or tomorrow I will put it in the car and then drive it to the dump, and hopefully that means that it'll be disposed of in an appropriate way. I don't know.
I mean, I couldn't believe it was like butter. I really thought there was going to be sparks flying everywhere once that saw made contact with the outside metal. Yeah. I brought a fire extinguisher. I had no idea what was going to happen,
Yeah, I don't know how much metal there actually was. It looked like it was mostly just plastic and foam insulation.
Right, yeah.
So I guess that's how they make refrigerators.
Yeah, I mean, it must have been just like a thin layer of almost like aluminum foil looking stuff basically on the outside. Yeah. And I thought your neighbors were going to complain because they told you no construction in the new campsite. Yeah. And I thought it'd be like waking the neighbors, but not so much.
It was fairly easy. But the problem is now we ended up finding and purchasing what looks like the best option for a replacement refrigerator, but it's still significantly, the interior space of how much it can hold is pretty close to the last one.
Yeah.
But the amount of space it takes up is not.
What I also realized was that's not the best option. That's the only option, because all these other fridges that we found, none of them had a freezer unit in there. That was the only one of that size that actually had a freezer in there too.
And it's pretty small. I did look today and verified that part of it does get down to 30, 31 degrees, which is what I need. But it's only like a shoebox sized freezer, which, I didn't use the freezer a ton. Usually all I would keep in there would be some hamburger patties or some sausage patties. And, I'm not really eating much ice cream these days. So it's a good incentive not to go back to that. But yeah, it'll keep my third pound, half pound hamburger patties frozen as I need, and my sausage patties frozen. I won't be able to just buy the box of sausage patties and put that in the freezer. I'll have to take the sausage patties out, put them into Ziploc freezer bags, and then store them.
It's all strategy. Yeah. I mean, you got to get creative when you're living in such a small space.
Yeah. And then because the refrigerator that I have now is smaller than the hole where a refrigerator was meant to go, I'm going to have to do some carpentry and basically build up that area, make some nice little wood trim, and it's also giving me the excuse to repaint that part of my my kitchen cabinets, which I painted blue, and the blue was a little harsher than I had thought that it was going to look.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to paint it sort of a cream color, which the rest of my cabinets are, and I think it'll make it for a little more mellow space, not quite so dramatic.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the move for sure.
So that's what's going on with my camper life. I am in the new place over at I guess technically I'm in Sorrento now, which is west of Sanford. It's a drive to Wawa and a drive to Publix. Not an unreasonable drive. Publix is about a 10-minute drive. Wawa's about 15 minutes. Those are the places that I seem to go the most. The gym will be a bit of a haul. The gym's about almost as long as the drive here because it's the gym right down the street from you. That's the closest one.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the Lake Emma Esport or LA Fitness, which
is it? Okay.
is the closest LA Fitness to me.
Huh.
So, yeah. The
Orange City is too far?
Orange City, I have to get all the way to I-4. Then
I-4
I-4 a couple exits.
Yeah, it's a little challenge to get from where you are.
Coming here the back way is it shaves like 6 or 7 minutes off where I take like Markham Woods Road and drive sort of through Longwood.
There's some beautiful houses.
Oh,
back
yeah.
There. Developments. Oh, yeah. That's the first time.
Real nice.
I mean, I've been living here 10 years, and it wasn't until I helped you get settled into your place.
And your GPS home.
And that I drove by there, and it's, oh my God. And there's
great trails too.
Exactly. Yeah. For walking, for biking. I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah. You can
beautiful spot.
You can start the trail at the end of my street and walk from there all the way up to 436 in Altamont Springs.
Oh, wow.
All on the same trail.
That's fantastic.
And that's probably a 15 or 16 mile hike, which I got my 30 coming up soon. So I may end up doing that here one day where I'll do the one way and then I'll just take an Uber back to my place. I'm not going to do the round trip.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Not in Florida heat. My 30-mile hike is October 1st in New Jersey, so I'm not going to have the heat to deal with that I would have to deal with here. But that's coming up, I guess, 3 weeks from tomorrow. I'll be in New Jersey making that hike. A week from today, I'll be in New York City for the Feast of San Gennaro. It looks like the next hurricane is not going to hit us in Florida in such a way that it's going to impact my travel. Yeah. Hopefully that turns out to be the case. All the spaghetti models have it taken a turn up north. So hopefully it won't impact New York while I'm there or Florida while I'm gone. But if it does, that'll complicate my life in some drastic ways.
Nice. Yeah, I'll be up there next week helping out my dad a little bit, but also I'm going to meet some friends. We're going to go to a Rutgers game I haven't been in years. And so they're regular season ticket holders as well as tailgaters, and they make a nice spread, and they're usually there like 3 or 4 hours before the game, cooking everything from breakfast to lunch to everything. So I'm excited for that. I haven't seen these guys in a while, so I'm definitely overdue. So
I have never tailgated a concert or a sporting event in my whole life.
Oh, you are missing out.
Am I?
Oh, you are.
Doesn't feel like the kind of thing I would enjoy.
Oh, you absolutely
You think I
would enjoy. Yeah, because it's not so loud that you can't hear each other talk. That's
that
the
is,
big thing
like,
for
the
you,
most
I know.
important thing, yes.
Right. And that's the best part is you're connecting with all these people and stuff, and you can have conversations and lots of really bad food for you. So.
Oh, I do like food that's bad for me. Okay. Yeah, maybe
It's
I'll
definitely
try it
worth.
sometime.
Absolutely.
I did have it on my very low priority bucket list to tailgate a Jimmy Buffett concert, but it looks like that's not going to happen now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm sure they're going to find a way. He's so popular. They'll probably
Coral Reef Band will tour without him,
or they'll have tribute bands or whatever, that will cover his songs just like they do with other.
Yeah, but will people tailgate bands for a tribute band? I don't know.
I guess that's a good question.
I've never been to a cover.
Maybe people will find any excuse to have some drinks and hang out.
The Grateful Dead probably their tribute bands probably have tailgating.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if they get big enough, there's enough people.
Yeah,
and you connect. I mean, these days you can connect with people who are fans of the tribute band on social and stuff like that. And before you know it, you've got a huge group of fans that are now all coming together before a show and meeting up, and the coordination's a lot easier these days, whereas before
Facebook makes it real easy.
It was you needed to be a monster type of event, and people that would sell out a stadium, and then everybody show up, so
all right, we're 12 minutes in. Let's try to talk about this book. We're starting what I believe is the last part 4. Is there part 5? I don't know.
Oh, good question.
We'll see, but we'll a lot of this latter part of the book is
there is no part 5.
Okay, good. The latter part of the book, the case studies get way longer, and for the most part, I find the case studies to not be the most compelling stuff because they're extreme cases,
right?
It's like let's showcase some very extreme behavior, and then talk about it. Where I mean, the one in this chapter, it's a guy, he gets too complacent in the relationship and gets too emotional, too needy, and so the woman aborts her pregnancy because she doesn't want to have a baby by the guy.
Well, here's the thing. He doesn't even say that he gets too emotional and too needy. All he's saying is he's paying more attention to her. Like, I was looking through this chapter, and it was all he did was he started to pay more attention to this one woman that he ended up marrying and having a child with, and he buys her chocolate and listens to her, and so there was nothing and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong as you're looking through this, but there was nothing that he talks about in this case study where it was like, oh my God, this guy is out of control in terms of being needy and dependent on this one woman. It looked like he was just kind of doing what a good human being would do for a pregnant wife. It wasn't anything other than him paying a little bit more attention to her, and then it's very extreme in terms of the way Canwell rephrases how her reactions are. She calls him a bitch, and she can't a stupid bitch, and
stupid bitches are the worst kind.
And I can't, and has said multiple times I can't stand the sight of him anymore. Based on what? There was some information missing in terms of what was he doing to cause such a crazy reaction out of somebody like that.
Okay,
right?
So it says he was always going out of his way to make her happy, constantly telling her how much he loved her, bought a new house as a sign of love and devotion to her and their unborn child. Then she says that she's trying to figure out what's wrong with her and she needed space and time to process her thoughts and feelings. And I think at that point, he did not give her any space or time whatsoever. And then that probably pushed her over the edge to the point where she's like, okay, I'm done with this guy.
Yeah, I guess that's the way to assume that. But he doesn't get into that specifically or other than his reaction was, says, how could, I can't believe you want that.
I need space and time to process my thoughts and feelings. And he says, there's no way I can leave you alone.
Okay. And that sounds like one conversation, and she goes and she aborts the baby based on that? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I do feel like that is some pretty extreme behavior on her part.
Yeah. Again, these stories, like you said, these stories aren't the best. And then he does try to explain it a little bit and goes in a little bit more detail afterwards.
Yeah, I think it does say if she disagreed with him, he would instantly back down and try to please her, which was not the guy that she fell in love with.
No. But
I would say that in this scenario, he definitely turned into a people pleaser or a specific person pleaser, her. And when you're attracted to somebody for who they are and then they turn into somebody else, even if it's somebody else who, seemingly is nicer to you and doing more for you, it's still a big change in personality that you're no longer the person you were when they got the hots for you. Then you can expect the hots to go away. Yeah.
And part of that also is it's a change in relationship that he's talking about here in terms of, on the bottom of page 1 or on 188, he goes, Irene felt as though she'd no longer had any time to herself. Whenever she needed space, Ben was always there, hanging around the background like a bad smell. So clearly beforehand, the relationship, she had that space.
Right.
So it wasn't just that he changed, but the nature of the relationship that they got into had also changed, which again is, I think it happens to a lot of people. I think it does. It's without us really being aware of it or knowing it, or even looking for that, because I think it even said here that Irene didn't know what was wrong. So she wasn't aware like exactly what was causing her to feel these feelings for Ben here. And that's, I think, a lot, that and it's not like there's a class on this stuff, right?
No.
And all we have are examples of, our parents or other people in our lives and see what happens with their relationships. And a lot of times we're just not even aware that the reason why people's feelings are changing is because, this specific behavior had changed, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've noticed in my professional life and my personal life, when you think about the friends and the coworkers that you enjoy hanging out with the most, it's never the people who, the way that you know them, either through the club, the organization, the company you work for, the fact that you know them through a bowling league or a softball. Like, think about all those people that you like hanging out. The ones you like hanging out with the most are not the ones where that thing you know them through is the only thing going on in their life.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And you almost look at the people like that.
That's great. That's a great point. That's a great way of thinking about it.
If the reason you know them is the only thing they have going on, you kind of don't want to hang out with them that much.
They're a little too extreme in that one area, and then it's right.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good point.
I'm a member
that's a great point.
Of a fraternal organization, and I do notice that the guys that I gravitate toward as friends are the ones where that fraternal organization we know each other through is not the only source of interest, entertainment, or whatever in their life. They also have an interesting career, or they have an interesting hobby, or they just have something else going on in their life where they're fun to hang out with for multiple reasons, not just, oh, we have this one thing in common, so now we have to be friends. It's like, it's like being, best friends in school, where it's like, the only reason you're friends is because the teacher sat you next to each other. That's probably not a lifelong friendship in the making. That's probably, you're going to be friends because the kid sits next to you in class, but you've got to have multiple points of connection with somebody to really, and that's, bringing it back to this chapter. It's like, if his only thing going on in his life is I'm her boyfriend or I'm her husband, that's going to seem kind of boring to her after not too long. I mean, at the beginning, it may seem interesting, like, oh, this guy's so into me. I'm the biggest part of his life, blah, blah, blah. But then, and look, I'm speaking from experience. I've been in that situation before. It's like, okay, eventually all you like to do is spend your time with me and you're only happy when you and I are hanging out together. It's like, no, go have your own stuff with your own friends and do your own thing. And then when you come back to hang out with me, I'll feel like I'm getting something of value, not just, your default setting.
Yeah, I mean, take it to that's a great analogy. So imagine, some of these people that you're connected with from these organizations, they've got all these other things going on. And now imagine they say, oh, you start asking them about their job. Oh, I quit my job to focus on, this fraternal organization or the bowling league, or, I'm no longer doing this or doing that or whatever. And now they're not the same person that you got to know and got to be friends with. Same thing applies in a relationship, right? Like the person that you got to know had all these other things going on in their life that you were, excited about, interested about, you could have conversations about. And now all of those things have gone to the wayside for just the relationship. There's a lot, you're a different person at that point, and there's a lot less going on, which ultimately I think could be a lot less interesting and a lot less opportunities to talk about experiences, to be interested, to learn from that other person, to have those connections, because there's a lot less going on with them. And it sucks because it's like they did it because they want to, prove or support you in some way. But unfortunately, it's, it kind of bites you in the ass by doing what you think. And I think a lot of people do that. They think, hey, that, I'm going to do all these things. Now, I'm not saying, ignore the other person entirely, but at the same time, don't give up everything else that is making you an interesting person.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that too, 100%. I mean, I'm lucky my friends have not totally like abandoned me or given up with me, because when I was younger, I'd get in a relationship and, I'd spend all of my time with them, with my partner, and I would barely hang out or talk to my friends, and they would give me some shit about it or every once in a while. But I was like, I'd much rather be able to make out with my girlfriend and do all these other things than, I'm not going to, and yeah, if I could do it over again, I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't have spent quite as much time with the partners as I did.
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier this morning before we recorded, where it's like if you let the relationship become the only thing that allows you to, basically get that buzz of good feelings, where it's like, your friendships with your buddies, your career that you should be working hard to build, your other interests that are separate. If you're like, well, those kind of max out for me at a 4 or a 5, but being with her is a 10, then you're naturally going to spend all your time doing the thing that is a 10, and you're not going to spend any time doing the thing that's a 4 or a 5. And then as a result, your time becomes cheap that you're spending with her. And it eventually it means less to you and to her as well.
Yeah.
And you find yourself, sitting on each other's couches with a TV show on while you're both looking at your phones.
Oof.
And what used to be a 10 ain't going to be a 10 anymore.
No, it's law of supply and demand. If it's around all the time, then how much value is there for that? It's an unlimited resource, or it's a nearly unlimited amount of time that you're spending with that other person versus, a little bit less and having that value there.
Yeah. Whereas if you're constantly investing your time and your effort in other things that also mean a lot to you, then the time that you spend at work will be time that you find value in your career. The time you spend with her will be time that you find value in her. And yeah, the point is to really have a life where everything you do, you're doing mindfully and you're putting in a lot of effort into everything. And so then you can appreciate the return that you're getting from all those different areas of your life. And you can be grounded or integrated or whatever mindful, whatever term you would like to use for that balanced life where you work hard at everything and appreciate everything.
Yeah. And I like that he goes right into what mindfulness is in terms of I guess his definition of being mindful when it comes to ourselves, and he talks about how that really is interpreted, meaning you are aware of your emotions and your feelings, but you don't allow them to overwhelm you. And he gets into that a little bit into the next chapter, talking about a couple of studies that show that mindful men typically are a little bit more attractive than non-mindful men.
Yeah, and we've talked about this and used a lot of different terms and a lot of different definitions. We've talked it before in the past about emotional regulation, being able to, keep your negative emotions from impacting you so severely that they constantly are impacting your mood and your reactions. Dr. Robert Glover talks about being able to be a witness of your thoughts and your feelings without letting your thoughts and your feelings drive your behavior and drive your mood. And it's tough that's a function that I think only Homo sapiens really have, which is being able to take a step back and sort of have that metacognition of, okay, I'm experiencing something and now I'm going to have some thoughts about my thoughts. And I don't know that, the orcas or the bonobos are able to pull that off in the same way that we are, where we don't have to just be completely reactionary and constantly be at the whim of whatever feelings crop up or thoughts crop up inside us. We can say, okay, I recognize right now I'm feeling this, or right now I'm thinking this, and here's where that's coming from, and here's why I'm not going to act on it right now.
Yeah. What's helped me with that is recognizing that I am not going to stop my primitive lizard brain from feeling these emotions.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with me when it comes up and I do have those feelings. Because I used to feel guilty when I would have those and think there's something wrong with me because I'm getting upset or I'm having these ideas or these feelings come up in me. It's really the key is recognizing them and then your reaction to them. And that's where the practice comes in. That's where the mindfulness comes in, and getting out and walking and doing things to, again, lower our level of anxiety so that when our emotions that we want to manage and regulate, they do come up, we've got that space because we're a little bit more chill and relaxed. We've got that space to be able to, and when I say space, I guess the emotional capacity to think about how we're feeling and not react immediately.
So one of the things I wanted to say about mindfulness was to quote from Sam Harris in his Waking Up meditation app. He posts such good videos on his Instagram, and one of the things he said recently that really resonated with me was that we often say that time is our most valuable resource, but he said no, our most valuable resource is attention. Where time, we're all going to spend the same amount of time roughly anyway, but attention, so we don't have a whole lot of control over the fact that we're going to spend 75, 80, 90, 100 years. We're going to spend that time. But the things we choose to put our attention on with the time that we have is really the area for the opportunities we can capitalize on or waste more than just the time that we spend. So what do we choose to spend our time paying attention to? And really with the nature of feelings and the nature of thoughts, where, we are constantly, and most of us, until you start trying to train a little bit with mindfulness, you don't notice how all day, every day, all you do is have thoughts pop into your head that you are not choosing or controlling. They just pop into your head. And the purpose of mindfulness, as we've talked about before on this podcast and in our personal conversations, mindfulness is the workout for your attention muscle, where you can really decide, okay, I'm going to choose to pay attention to things or choose not to pay attention to things. And the only way you get good at that is by focusing on your breath for 10 or 20 minutes a day. And then when you notice a thought comes and distracts you, you say, oh, there goes a thought. I'm going to go back to my breath. And just, it's like anything else, whether you're running to train your cardiovascular system or you're lifting weights to train your muscles, if you're not engaging in some kind of mindfulness on a regular basis, you're not training your attention to be on the things you want it to be. And you're just, you're at the whims of whatever your monkey mind decides to present to you next. And none of us choose or predict what our next thought is going to be. It just happens. And then you decide what to do with that when it occurs.
Yeah, I really like that. That explains, that's a nice way of cutting through and getting to the most important part of time is your attention, because a lot of times when you are going for a meeting or you're going to like a web presentation from somebody who's trying to sell you something, of course, they're always telling you, put your phone down, close all your open browsers, pay attention to what I'm presenting here. They don't give a shit about your time so much. They want your attention. Right. Because if you're sitting there, it's still the same amount of time if you're, but that you're sitting in front of their presentation. But if you're looking at other things, you're not paying attention. They don't have your attention. They want your attention.
Right.
And so that's, my marketing brain immediately went to, yeah, that's exactly what the most valuable part of the time is the attention. And then how, and all of the marketing that we're subject to and all of the programming that our brains are dealing with is really, like you said, it's focused on getting our attention. It doesn't care that we are sitting in the car looking at the billboard. Right. If you're not paying attention to the billboard, who cares, right? It's not valuable. Yeah. But you're right. So the most valuable thing is attention, or I should say Sam Harris, give him the credit for that. But thank you for, no, that was, I learned something. That's going to be on my 5-minute journal. What did I learn today? It's not time. It's actually attention.
Yeah.
That is the most valuable resource. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I guess the takeaway is if you don't have an attention system that you can count on to spend time on the things you want to be spending time on, then yeah, I mean, I would say if you have a strong mindfulness practice, then you are even less susceptible to marketing messages and things like that, where, you're probably not as good a consumer as the establishment would like you to be.
Yeah.
You're good at choosing what things you give attention to.
Right. And I mean, that comes back to my little top 3 things on my Post-it note. This is setting my intentions for my attention for the day.
Right.
So if this wasn't here, it's a lot easier to forget what these are because it's not top of mind. It's not bothering my hand every time I pick up my phone, and I'll easily get distracted doing other things.
Yeah.
I try to focus on these things first, so I know that at the end of the day, the things that are important to me that I set my intentions for, they got done. And then I don't need to be as diligent about my attention for everything else that comes along and begs for it.
Yeah, because there are so many, I mean, like it or not, there are a lot of rich and powerful people in the world that will stay rich and powerful the better they are distracting you, so that you're giving attention to their products and services instead of the things that you ought to be spending your time and attention on.
Oh, yeah.
And whether, Zuckerberg, Musk, whoever, owns the TV networks, the movie studios, I mean, they are very good at wrestling your attention away from the things that would make your life better and putting your attention on the things that will make their lives better.
Right.
And I'm not saying, they're evil geniuses to do it. They're just trying to, produce a product for value.
Right. So I mean, here's the thing is, though, some of the products they create do make our lives better.
Right.
And it's just a matter of, do you unconsciously just ride that wave and let them feed you all of those things without being mindful, without taking a second to evaluate how much value are you getting out of it, and then what are the downsides of you using this product? It's not all going to be just value. There's right. So that's I think it's a little bit rough to say that they don't provide any value for us, but again, is it the value that you want and is best for you and where you are in life?
Well, I mean, think about, because we all know corporations are not moral or immoral. They're amoral. Their aim is to provide value for their stockholders above everything else. So, when Anheuser-Busch tells you to drink responsibly, the best case scenario for them is you should be buying and drinking as much beer as you possibly can that still allows you to buy more beer.
Right. Yes. Yeah. You need to stay alive so you can continue to be a consumer. Right.
You stay alive and stay employed.
Yeah.
So you can continue buying their beer. And really beyond that, they don't really care much except for the feel good public relations message that they're putting out there because they want to be seen as a nice company.
Right. And so, I mean, we got to keep it. Something that I want to throw out there too is that, companies are comprised of people. Right. And so while that might be the company mission, individuals who work for that company, just because you work for that company doesn't mean that is also you're this cold, calculating, hard-nosed person who's only interested in. Now, some of them might be.
I was going to say, hold on a second.
Right. I'm not giving them all a pass.
Talking about Moderna or Pfizer, and then they're all evil geniuses.
Well, no, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. There's a lot of people who, they work for these companies, and they've done a lot of good work, and are dependent on having these jobs. There's all these other factors that get involved with that. So I don't, if I've given off that impression in the past, I apologize. I'll walk that back. So, but that's the thing to also remember when you are marketing, or doing anything online, is that, the people who are, they might be representing these companies who might be your potential consumers. But something that I learned was also that it's still a person who's consuming the content. So the message and the way you communicate should still be a personable, friendly message that is going to entice someone to continue to read, and not think this is just some robot type of organization that we've got an impression of Moderna or Coke or Pepsi or Apple or whatever, as having these traits and values, but it's still an individual person who's making that decision. And that's something, it's a little bit of something to think about when it comes time to promoting anything, really, is who's that person, what's important to them.
Right. And I would say that it's just there can be competing values where, whether it's social media or alcohol, moderation is probably best for you as the consumer, but it's not necessarily best for the company, for all of their consumers to practice moderation. I mean,
correct.
Facebook is better off with, if we were all, I'm sure there are people out there who are using Facebook literally 14, 16 hours a day, and they just don't give it up. And that's the best case scenario probably for Facebook, but it's not the best case scenario for you or your friends or your kids or whatever. So, I'm just saying that there is be aware that when it comes to your attention, there can be organizations or people that are trying to push you in a direction to spend your attention in a way that works for them, not necessarily the way that works for you.
And it's so hard because a lot of times it feels good when we are spending our attention on social media, or
for it to feel good.
Or consuming their beverages, whether it's beer or coffee or soda, or we're getting a little dopamine hit from those experiences. And so we're now wiring and training our brains that these things feel good. So then when it comes to the end of the day and we're stressed out, we want to feel good. We're looking for some sense of relief. We're going to turn to those things that might not be the best solution for us. And that's how we need to be so careful of what we let ourselves get involved with, and practice and turn into habits. It's difficult. It's really, it's a challenge.
I'm reading one of Andrew Farabee's books about where he talks about, how we try to soothe ourselves with vices, and how, some of the things that in the moment make us feel better after, we're dealing with a difficult situation, grief, a loss, whatever. These vices, and whether that is you're drinking, smoking, porn, video games, really binging Netflix, anything that maybe fine in moderation, that in more than moderation, in excess, can do some damage. It will delay how long it takes for you to recover from a loss or a negative event in your life. And to his credit, he doesn't say, okay, I'm not going to say don't ever do any of these things at all, because I know that, when your brain is going through a loss specifically, it's like you're looking for, okay, what is out there that can make me feel better in the moment, so that I can feel like I can last till tomorrow, where I do the next good thing for me. It's hard, but there are some people and some vices that you have to say, okay, I'm not doing this at all anymore. I'm just giving it up because it's not serving me. Yeah.
The way that really hit me was when I went through the life coach school scholars program. It's like a year-long program from Brooke Castillo. She's brilliant. She's a psychologist as well, and she calls it buffering. So all these things that we do that feel really good, she calls it buffering. And what we're doing is we're buffering our emotions by the feelings that we're having. We're kind of pushing away by doing these vices. And so we're buffering what we're really feeling, and kind of speaks to what Farabee was talking about, which is it's going to take longer to get through whatever you're getting through, because you're never actually dealing with the emotions.
Exactly,
and you always hear that too when people are going into therapy or whatever. Once they deal with those emotions, once they let that out, it's a lot quicker of a process to heal, because you've never really addressed it. You've never really put your mind, you've never been mindful about it and intentionally said, I'm going to go through and feel these feelings, even though they may not be feeling good. I mean, who wants to feel bad? Nobody does. Right. So so you really got to put an effort in to do this.
And dealing with negative feelings and negative events in your life. I mean, it's like, you can put off paying,
sign me up.
You could put off paying a parking ticket. You could put off paying your taxes. You could put off paying, a fine.
Yeah.
But eventually, you're going to have to deal with it. And the longer you put it off, the harder it's going to be.
Yep.
So, yeah. All right. Let's talk about, I have no idea what our total recording time is at this point, but let's go ahead and finish the chapter. I just want to touch on the idea that women like playful men, generally speaking, and guys who could not make a situation more serious than it needs to be, and the ability to keep things fun, make funny jokes, not just inappropriate jokes, but funny jokes. And the study that they mention here from Stanford, he mentions that women's biological reward systems are built to respond more positively to humor than men's. And I find this to be somewhat true. I enjoy funny content, and I spend a lot of my time watching funny YouTube videos or listening to funny podcasts. And here's the thing he doesn't say that I will say. I believe that when it comes to sort of juicing me up in a way that will actually lead to me making decisions about my life, it is the sort of more inspiring or, I would say inspiring or motivational content is going to push me to make a big decision more than something that's funny.
Oh, absolutely. I'm right on board with you.
According to the research he cites here, with women, it's not true. They will be motivated to make a decision by seeing something positive and fun and funny more than something inspirational and motivational.
Yeah, I would love to see a couple of videos,
like samples that
to get a better sense of what that looks like. Because I mean, I guess you incorporate humor with some sort of call to action. Is that kind of what you're saying at that point?
Yeah. So what he's saying is that in the experiment, the participants were asked to view funny videos, like people falling over or animals performing tricks. And, videos of people falling over, you got to be pretty careful how you put that together to make it look funny and not like, cringy. Animals performing tricks, certainly. And then positive videos that consisted of videos of dancers and snowboarders. Like, what makes those positive? Again, I think he cut some corners here when describing these videos.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if he didn't delve into the research material or
that doesn't line up. Yeah.
I mean, I don't see a video of a snowboarder and think, wow, my life's changed.
Well, maybe it's like doing impressive things, like wow, like that's really impressive, like him like going off the side of a mountain and doing a backflip or whatever on a snowboard kind of thing. That's what kind of came to mind when I read that.
It's hard to think that is going to have a more pronounced effect on my brain chemistry than we don't know what the study looks like, right? Seeing a dog, jumping 26 feet to catch a frisbee.
Okay, well, you're a big animal guy, so and somebody who snowboards or is just learning to snowboard or wants to learn to snowboard.
I feel like there's some corners being cut in the description here. And again, I don't know if that's the description of the original study or...
I think he just likes to keep his chapters short. So he likes snipping the content, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, just something to keep in mind that, and that's part of the thing that, as a man, you have to watch out for when you're in a situation where you're interacting with a woman and something funny occurs to you, don't necessarily censor yourself. It's like if something funny comes to mind, you should probably just put it out there, and it may be polarizing, and it may make her laugh, it may not make her laugh, but the part where you withhold it because you're worried about impressing her or something like that is only going to work against you.
Yeah, I think the overall theme of this is basically people in general are looking for some sort of confidence and leadership, and not basically bending to whatever is blowing in the wind so quickly, right? And part of that I feel also is being authentic, right? So if you are like consistent and you are not subject to changing your opinions in your mind so easily, you are presenting a true authentic self. You aren't pretending to be something that you're not at that point, right? Whereas if you're so quick to placate or change based on very little information or assumptions or things that you're worried about that don't really exist, that are in your own head, then you are presenting yourself in a way where people don't know what you really believe because you're so quick to change. And then that is a risk. Subconsciously, that's a risk because to everybody around you, because now it's just like you're an unknown value. You're not really trustworthy in a way because you don't know what, and that's you know who you are. Right?
And that's one of the things that Glover, talks about bad daters not doing is they don't blurt. They calculate everything they say and they do because they're worried about what impression they're going to put out there instead of just, hey, here's, I mean, we had an example the other night. You and I went to Mathers on Saturday, and, there was a young lady that came over and talked to us, and she was attractive, I would say, on the, not, I don't believe in just turning people into numbers on a 10-point scale, but if I did, I would say she was a solid 7. Okay. Would you? I mean, I know you and I have different interests when it comes to body types and things like that.
Look, she was definitely more attractive than less attractive, and that's kind of where I'm gonna fall.
She was more attractive than average. You fill up a room with a certain number of people, and she would have been among the more attractive people in the room.
Correct. That's where I'm gonna go.
Personality wise, I didn't see much there that really interested me, and so it was for a while. It was me, you, and Kurt. And then another friend came by, and then you kind of went off into a conversation with another guy you knew from Run Group. But very early in the conversation, I was like, oh, this is a pretty girl that I am not interested in. And so I immediately went into the mode of, I'm here to make myself and Kurt laugh. And I wasn't attempting to be offensive to her by any means, but I was also not attempting to impress her or make her like me because, I would argue at my best, I am not looking to make anyone impressed or like me. I'm just there to have a good time. And, I did have a good time, and I got the impression she probably didn't like me, and that is absolutely fine because I had some good zingers that made me and Kurt laugh pretty hard.
Hey, listen, I mean, it's interesting. So let me ask you then, is if she laughed and, was kind of, I don't want to say impressed, but had a better reaction to some of your zingers, would that have changed your opinion in terms of attractiveness of her?
Oh yes, I find one of the most effective features a woman can have is thinking I'm funny. And so few of them have it. So few of them possess it. But yes, but I would, and I would say that would probably empower me to make more jokes and go a little crazier with the jokes than I would have otherwise. But yes, I would say that would. Yeah, if I'm making jokes and somebody's acting like I'm very funny, then I'm going to think that they're more attractive.
All right, ladies, you heard it here. You know how to get to Charles now. You got to fake those laughs.
No, they can't be fake. They have they have to be faked really well, or they have to be real.
All right, so actresses out there.
Yes.
There you
go. Okay, so I think we'll stop there. Next time we'll talk about don't focus on the relationship. And we'll get into a little bit more of how men can mess things up when they get preoccupied with, I'm going to behave the way I need to behave to make this relationship work, instead of I'm going to be me and I'm going to have fun with my partner. And, you know, we'll talk a little bit about the tendency that some of us have, and by us, I mean you and me, to engage in too much meta conversation about the relationship.
Oh, guilty.
Yeah. And, creating this, I would say false intimacy, where the more you and I talk about the relationship, the closer we'll be and the better the relationship will be.
Yeah.
Where
Instead of
really
living in the moment.
It's really, it's like show your partner what the relationship means to you with your actions. Don't spend all your time talking to your partner about the relationship.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's same thing as like documenting the entire thing. Whenever you're out on your phone,
Yes.
constantly
Good
taking
point.
pictures
Yes.
instead of living in and experiencing the moment. So ironically, I'm not the one to take pictures of everything. I don't take enough pictures of stuff,
Right.
but yet I would typically talk about,
me
do
too.
the meta analysis way too much. So
Yeah, agreed.
we all got some stuff to work on.
All right, we'll talk about that next time, and hopefully we'll have an answer to our software issue where our computer doesn't keep cutting out and us having to fix it. But
Stay tuned.
yeah, now so far I feel pretty good about how this went, but we've got to actually watch the video and listen to the audio to see if it's any good.
All right, people.
All right, so we'll see. Maybe this will make the light of day. Maybe it won't. If you're hearing this, then it worked good enough. All right.
All right. Have a good one, man.
All right. Talk to you later, Dan.
Bye.